Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures that Outperform. I hope you've been tuning into this series on innovative culture. We're moving on to episode 5. We have a total of 14 episodes in the series, maybe 15. We'll see where it ends up. And I think if you follow what we're doing here in your company or organization, you can tap tremendous amounts of creativity. You can become a true innovative culture. Companies struggle to innovate and reinvent themselves mostly because they don't know the human factors, not just of leadership, but certainly of innovation. So today we're going to be looking at this freedom to fail, extremely important. And my incredible co-host Terry Mays and I are going to be talking about how do you do that? Why does it matter? It's really super important because if you have a great strategy and you've gotten people animated and excited about it, now you got to start doing something. And freedom to fail is the basis of an innovative culture, right? Without that, then there's not going to be any exploration or risk taking. Exploration, risk taking, and the freedom to fail based on what people find and discover is really, really, really important. I think it's one of the key things.
Yeah. I think that's part of the discovery, right? So being able to try something, make a mistake,
Mhm.
or, try something and think that you're doing something great and fail,
Yeah,
either way, it's a great learning experience if you see it that way. So don't see it as all of the times that you failed, but see it as how much closer you're getting to the right thing.
yeah,
But you've got to create an environment and a work environment where people feel comfortable doing that, where they feel like they can make a mistake, they can fail, they can miss the mark, and it's okay. Because most of our work environments are the exact opposite. You need to be
yeah.
perfect all the time. You need to have the right answer all the time. You are never allowed to make a mistake or never allowed to fail. And that creates a certain pressure and tension that you'll never create anything innovative in. There's this pressure in that type of an environment that stifles innovation because you want to be right all the time, which means you're trying to be careful all the time.
Mhm.
You're trying to be exact all the time. You're not thinking creatively. You're thinking the path of least resistance.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure that you're not doing that to people, that you really do give them an opportunity to learn, try, fail. So as you're learning, you want to try out what you're learning. And then if you fail, you fail, but then you learn again. So you don't really lose anything. You're actually gaining more in the process.
Yeah, it's interesting. Organizations that don't have a freedom to fail and don't really encourage exploration and risk taking, and we'll talk more about this as we go through the series because that plays into it. That's a short circuit. There's an energy to kind of creativity and drive. And if you have leaders who don't believe in taking some risk and they're always trying to make sure they don't get in trouble, they shut down all avenues of creativity. They turn people off. They're very bad. I've seen them in action. You've got to encourage that risk taking, which means you've got to celebrate some of these people who tried something and it didn't work. They went down an avenue that didn't work out. You got to celebrate the fact they explored something and tried to do something great, but it didn't work, and that's okay. And that means there's certain boundaries in place in the organization so people know really how much leeway they have. I know W.L. Gore, which Gore-Tex, very successful company, very creative. They always had something called the waterline that everybody knew. There was a certain, you could go so far without getting any approvals. You could take a certain amount of risk in your organization, whether it was to buy new stuff and try things. And I think you've got to have that type of organization where it's it's part of the DNA of the place to try things. And now you've got a creative culture. Getting those leaders who stifle everybody's creativity out of the place is what you've got to do. They can't be leaders in a company like that. It's just that simple.
Yeah. Because you don't want people to stifle the creatives, right? You really do have to give people that space to try something new if you want to do something new.
Mhm.
So if you want to be innovative, you can't just keep doing things the same way you always have and expect that, oh, voila, we're going to get some innovation out of
Yeah.
this. No, you're going to keep getting the same thing you've already gotten. That
Yeah.
is the definition of insanity, trying to do the same thing and expecting a different result. So you've got to give people that liberty to think outside the box and not feel like they have to conform to the way that everybody around them is thinking. This is one of the reasons that having a diverse workforce is just so
Yeah.
important, because you get different perspectives, you get different mindsets, you get different viewpoints. People with different backgrounds and different upbringings just see things differently. And that's what you want when you're trying to be innovative, when you're trying to be creative. You want to make sure that you've set an environment where people can be different and it's okay. They're not made to conform to the environment around them and the way of thinking around them. So they have to have that freedom to explore, that freedom to challenge what's going on around them, question, to ask questions, to think deeply about things, to be able
Mhm.
to see a different perspective and raise a different perspective and not be shut down. So you want to give them that opportunity and that freedom to just open up and see it for what it is. And maybe people see things differently, and that's okay. That's really what you want, is that difference of opinion, that different
Mhm.
viewpoint. You want that so that people can start to see things from a different perspective. Because once I see something different and I share that with Frank, and then Frank can start to see things different, and then he may see something different that I didn't see. As we're talking to each other, we begin to see a whole new option that never existed. But you've got to
Yeah.
give people that liberty to just open up and try things. Sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you get it wrong, and sometimes it's really wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at least you get a chance to try it out. You know, you try and you learn from your failures as much as you do from your successes, if not more.
Yeah. And, all the prior episodes, remember, these are building blocks. So you've got to get here. An innovative culture where there is freedom to fail doesn't exist if you haven't moved up through levels 1, 2, and 3. We showed you the 4 levels, and innovative culture is the fourth level. You've got to get there, or you don't have the fertile soil to even implement freedom to fail, because people may not feel psychologically safe. You're not going to get any ideas. People aren't collaborative. And all of those are foundational building blocks of your culture. And as you look at this, when you were putting a lot of time and energy into creating this competitive threat as inspiration, which we went over in episode 2, you could spend a lot of time on that. But if you haven't reached a level of having this innovative culture and you're not creating freedom to fail, you're spending a lot of time and energy getting people kind of motivated and wound up, but you can't go anywhere because the fabric of the place doesn't support innovation. So, using all of these different tools we're talking about is the key, and methodically building this innovative culture. Freedom to fail is a very important piece, but you got to get there. You don't start there. It's one of the destinations. There are many signposts on the road to get you to this final state where you have an organizational state of creative flow and the place is really humming and everybody understands what creativity is. So these are all different destinations along the way. And we're trying to share this vision of how you go down this road to create the truly innovative culture. You can't just do this one thing and get there.
Right.
You're not going to succeed at all. You've got to understand all these human factors of innovation and start really building towards all of them. It's very important.
Yeah. It's this a whole freedom to fail really reminds me of a quote from Nelson Mandela. I never lose, I either win or I learn. That's the kind of philosophy
Yeah,
you have to
I
have
love
about
that.
that freedom to fail. Like, you really have to see it as not as losing, but it's an opportunity for me to either get it right, or
Yeah,
if I don't get it right, I learn something along the way that'll help me get better. So it's not
great quote.
the negative side of just failing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that whole concept of, um, you know, if I never lose, I either win or learn something. And he's right, because
Yeah.
in those failures where people were pursuing things, maybe it just wasn't the right time, but now they've learned that. And those concepts are part of their arsenal to add into this whole process of creative abrasion we're going to talk about, where people
Yeah.
come together and share ideas and take concepts collectively to a higher level. Really, really important. Um, so freedom to fail, super important. I hope you're enjoying this series on innovative culture. We're really digging into these human factors of innovation, why they matter, why you need to think about them, and why you want to take your organization on this journey. Because that's the ultimate destination, is this truly innovative culture where all these human factors express themselves, and that creativity is just coming out and flowing. In the next episode, we're going to be talk about the need to hire creative. How do you build the creative quotient of the organization? Well, you've got to go out and add creative people to the place. And so I hope you could join us for that one. That's going to be episode 6. We thank you for joining us here today, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 3 o'clock.